Good morning. So, last session I have explained you how do we, uh, create the ASP.NET Core MVC application by creating an empty application and how we can convert that into the MVC core application. I have explained you in the last session. Now, in today's session, we'll be integrating ASP.NET Core MVC application by using Entity Framework Core. And I just wanted to use the DB first approach as the part of it. And we have two different types of approaches are available to communicating with the database by using the Entity Framework Core. The first one is the model first approach and code first approach. And second one is the DB first approach. And before we are going to start about the Entity Framework Core, what exactly the Entity Framework is? What exactly the Entity Framework is? Entity Framework is an ORM tool. ORM tool. Simply, I can say it is an ORM tool. What is ORM stands for? ORM stands for Object Relational Database. ORM stands for Object Relational Database. Sorry, Object Relational Mapping, I can say. I'm sorry. Object Relational Mapping tool, that what we are calling. That is what we call it as a ORM, that what we are having. That is what we call it as ORM. Now, what exactly it is? It is a tool which is used to convert all the relational database objects into object-oriented programming. All the relational database objects are getting converted into object-oriented programming. That is what this tool will do generally. If you can go with an ADO.NET, the problem is going to be where you people have to write the queries. And the queries are not reliable. So that is where we go with the stored procedure. Suppose if the data source is changed from SQL to Oracle, then we have to learn that particular language and where we have to implement that related queries. So these are all the limitations that what we are having with ADO.NET Core. So that is what the reason Microsoft introduced a separate tool and which is completely related to the C#.NET. That means the complete database transactions that are available, like to perform the CRUD operation, we need not to write even a single query. They introduced a concept that is what we call it as ORM. And by using that ORM, you can do whatever you want. That's up to you. So that is what exactly the ORM. So ORM stands for. And this ORM, by using this particular tool, whatever the entity framework we are having, by using this, we are communicating with the database in two ways generally. The first one is going to be, let's say, code first approach is available. And the second approach is going to be, let's say, DB first approach is available. There are two approaches are available. First one is the code first approach and second one is the DB first approach. So what is the big difference between these two? If it is a code first approach, will be generating database and tables from the C#.NET. Okay, from the C#.NET classes, I can say. From the C#.NET classes, if you can generate the database and the tables, then that is what we call it as a code first approach. That is what we call it as code first. And DB first approach is nothing but if we generate model classes on the existing database, then that is what we call it as a DB first approach. There are two approaches we are following. Code first approach is available and DB first approach is available. Code first means from the code to the database, and the DB first approach means from the database to the code. That is how it is going to be. Now, whenever if you are working with entity framework, there are like two classes are very important for us. That means in entity framework, we have two different types of classes. Let's say two different classes are available. Classes are available. Like the first one is going to be, let's say, data context class. The first one is going to be the data context class, which is which is representing the database, I can say. And at the same time, we have what? Model classes. And these classes are based on the database table, I can say. Based on the database tables. Based on the database table, if you can generate the classes, those are what we call it as model classes. What these classes will contain? These classes will contain These classes will contain public properties. Public properties, that what I am having. Public properties. I assume that like you people are having at least the basic idea about the entity framework. So that is what the reason. Just I'm giving a overview of that. But originally, if you wanted to learn like the entire entity framework, then you have to attend for the session so that like it would be easy. I'm assuming that like as I already told you, if you wanted to learn about these two combination, at least you should have the basic understanding of ASP.NET and entity framework. And I'm trying to show you a complete a kind of POC where you can communicating with the entity framework core in the ASP.NET Core MVC. That is what I'm trying to do. So this is all about the entity framework. What exactly entity framework? Entity framework is an ORM tool. ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping Tool. What this tool will do? It is used to map all the relational database objects into object-oriented programming. How it is getting mapped? Suppose the database relational object is going to be a table. The tables are getting converted into, I'll say, classes. And at the same time, we have the columns are available. Columns are getting converted into, public properties, I can say. Public properties, that what I can say. And at the same time, we have rows are available. These are converted into instances. And the next one is going to be stored procedures are available. And those are getting converted into functions, that what I can say. This is what exactly the ORM process. ORM means object relational mapping. Converting the database relational objects, whatever we are having, will get converted into the object-oriented programming. Object-oriented means it's a C#.NET object-oriented. That is so. And when you are communicating with the database, there are like two approaches that what we are having. First one is code first. For this, especially for this particular approach, we need not to have what? Any kind of database on the server will be generated automatically by writing the C#.NET classes. And DB first approach, in the sense, first we have the database, and based on the database, if you are generating the model classes, then that is what we call it as DB. Code first and DB first approach, both approaches are good in market right now. And in entity framework core, we don't have like model first approach, but if it is a pure entity framework, we are having model first approach as well. I'm talking about entity framework core, not the entity framework. And the next one is going to be to work with the entity framework. There are two set of classes are very important for us. First one is the data context class, and which is representing our database. Whenever if you wanted to represent your database, there you can go with a data context class. And the second one is the model class that are available. And these classes are based on the database table. And these classes, what it will contain? It contain the public property. And by using that property, we are able to share the data. So that is how it is going to be. This is the quick introduction about the entity framework core. Now let me start with the integration part with ASP.NET Core MVC with entity framework core. I'm using Visual Studio 2019 to demonstrate about this particular particular workshop. But if you guys wants to use anything, 2017 you can, or else 2015 also, nothing to happen. Like you can go with that. Earlier we have created the core first application. I'm using very first application with ASP.NET Core, and I'm converting that into ASP.NET Core MVC. Now what I'm trying to do is I just wanted to create a new project. Let me give all the steps here. How do we work with this particular one? Step number one is going to be create. Step number one is going to be create an ASP.NET MVC core web application. I can say the first one is going to be step number one, create an ASP.NET MVC core web application. That is the step number 1. Now you see already yesterday we have created that. So that is where it is comes under the recent project template, or else you can select it from here and then click on OK. That's it. Then it is asked you to enter the project name, so that I can say the project name is going to be Entity Framework Core CRUD operations, that what I am using. And I'm going to save this particular application in the E drive. There we have the workshop, and I'm trying to save that in there, Entity Framework Core CRUD operations, and then click on OK, or else like click on create. It shows you different project templates to you, and I have already explained you what are all the templates and what each template would do. So now here you can see there is an empty template we are having. Yesterday we have selected the empty template only, but now in today's session I'll select what? MVC template, web application with the MVC template. So empty means it is an empty project. Okay, it is an empty ASP.NET Core project. I told you that there is a lot of difference between ASP.NET Core and ASP.NET MVC. When you compare with ASP.NET and ASP.NET MVC, how much difference is available? In similar way, when it comes to ASP.NET Core and ASP.NET Core MVC, that much difference is available. So that is why don't think both are similar, both are entirely different. But especially in ASP.NET Core, we have a facility to convert the core applications into MVC by configuring the services. So where do we configure the services? There is a file is available with the name startup.cs, and there you can give all the service integrations, so that it would be very easy for us to configure anything. Now what I'm trying to do, I'm selecting a web application by using modal view and controller. Now what is MVC? A project template for creating an ASP.NET Core application with an example of ASP.NET Core MVC views, controllers, and this template can also be used for RESTful HTTP services. I told you yesterday clearly, whenever if you are working with ASP.NET Core MVC, the same template or same project can be used for RESTful web services as well. That is what I clearly told you. Unified framework for building RESTful web services. Unified framework for building what? RESTful web services. That is what the great advantage that what we are having. So I'm selecting this. I'll remove the HTTPS configuration and then click on create. It might take a couple of minutes, and the version that what I'm using here is 3.1.8 is the version currently that what I'm using. 3.1.8 is the version that what I'm using, and that is the latest one that what we're having, 3.1. Now let's see, this is the step number 1. What is the step number 1? Create an ASP.NET MVC core web application. That is step number 1. Once if I create an ASP.NET Core MVC application, if you can observe that we have different files and folders are available here. What are the files and folders we are having? The first one you get, I told you yesterday, connected services are used for publishing purpose, and dependencies are used to maintain all the dependencies that are needed to run the ASP.NET Core web application. And the next one is going to be, we are having what? Properties section is available, where it contains some JSON file. And I told you, in especially ASP.NET Core application, if it is an MVC or a normal core application, we don't have, we don't have what? We don't have XML files. Everything will be configured with the help of what? JSON files only. We don't have any other option. And also all the static files are getting created under a separate folder. That is what we call it as www-root. www-root is a folder which was created by the ASP.NET Core MVC application template, and they maintain all the static files. Static files in the sense, all the CSS related files, all the JavaScript related files, all the Bootstrap, jQuery validation, and jQuery unobtrusive, all those files are getting created it over there. That is what the www-root folder. You need not to worry. If you are creating an MVC application, then automatically we'll get what? Bootstrap files and jQuery validation files. All those files you will get automatically. And apart from that one, there is another folder is available. That is what we call it as a controllers. What a controllers folder will do. The controller folder will contain a home controller. The default controller is the home controller. As because of that reason, we are having what? Home controller only here. And followed by, we have like some model is available, some view is available. And apart from that one, if you can observe that application, I mean app settings.development.json is available and app settings.json is available. There are like two files that are available. First one is used for the dev environment and second one is used for the production. Srikanth, can I remove these files? Yes, you can. That's up to you. And then followed by the remaining things are same, program.cs, which can be used to set up the hosting environment. Hosting environment setup can be done with the help of program.cs. And there we are having another file, startup.cs is available. We can go with the configurations. Now you can see by default, yesterday we have done by our own services.add controller with views. Generally, this is a service which is used to convert an ASP.NET Core application into MVC. That is what the reason. And we have some configurations for the HTTP request pipeline. Which one is going to be first and after that, like which one needs to be executed. All those are the configuration. And we have an endpoint here. So endpoint is basically, which is a default endpoint. And we are having the home controller and index action. When I'm executing my application, there you can see automatically that will get executed. You need not to worry about it. You can just verify. See this? Automatically that will get executed. Let me build the solution. We'll get like the default page or else like the startup page by default. Now let's execute the application. We'll get the startup page. I'm not writing anything which comes with some default home page. We'll see the default home page right now after executing. You see. Right. So this is what the default page that what we're having, home and privacy, entity framework, CRUD, building apps with ASP.NET Core. Okay, right now it is 5.0, but not yet stable still. We are working with 3.1 only in all our application development. 3 and 3.1, like all those things. 3.1 to directly, we have 5.0. You see, like there is 5.0 that what we are having. And there are like a lot of changes are happen, but still it is under the beta version only. Right now we are working with, we are in this particular stage, 3.0 to 3.1 that what people are using. Okay, fine. And even like we have a beautiful articles are available. You can just have a look into them as well. Now I'm communicating with a database table. I'm communicating with the database, and in the database name is going to be, I'm having a small database. There we are having company DB. There we have a table, and the table is going to be an employee table. I'm selecting top 1000 rows so that it shows you the data, whatever it contains. Crystal is a lightweight server. So that, to execute the ASP.NET Core application, it doesn't require always to depend on IIS web server. Even you can work with Crystal as well. Crystal server also can be used. That is a kind of server which is similar to the IIS to run the application. Okay, now you can see there are like different records are available. I'm having employee number, name, salary, job and department number, that what I am having. Now, by using this table, I'll perform the CRUD operation. So how can I do that one? Let's come back here. First, let's get started with the model classes. Generally, what is the use of model? A model which is used to communicating with the database and getting the data and sharing the data from one place to another place. That means either you can share the data from view to the controller or controller to the view, or else like controller to the model and model to the view. Anywhere within the application, if you wanted to share the data, then we should have the model. And these models, as I already told you, there are two different types of classes. First class is the context class. Let's right click, add. I'm adding a new class. And the name of the class is going to be, let's say, company DB data context, that what I am using, context class is required. And the second class is going to be, let me add the model class. Model classes are similar to the database table. I'm having my database table with the name employee, so that is where I'll go with employee.cs. You may ask a question, do I need to give the same name as my table name? The answer is no. That's up to you. There is a concept is available, MVVM. If you can go with that, there you can go with the different names as well. But right now, at this point of time, I'm writing something like that. And now what I want to do, I just wanted to convert this particular employee class as related to the database object. So how can I do that one? First, what I can do, I'll use a table attribute here, table attribute, and which is available it over there. And then the name of the table is going to be, let's say, employee only on my database. So that if you can use a table name over here, then here you can go with a different name. That's up to you. And the employee table, which comes with different properties. I'm working on existing database, so that is where make sure like whatever all the columns are available will be created those many properties. So the first one is going to be what? Let's have public int employee number is available, and which is a primary key. So that is where I'll try to add that on the top. And in similar way, if you wanted to maintain the validations in the sense verifying the data before user entered, I just wanted to verify whether the data is there in accuracy or not. So to do that one, what I can do, let's say required that what I am using. And if you wanted to give any error message for that, specially you can give, let's say required that what I am using. Like that, you can implement what? You can implement what? All the validations as well. That is the first one. Second one is going to be public string employee name, that what I can give. And there I can say required once again. And the next one is going to be, let's have a property public decimal salary, that what I'm having. Generally, if you are working with money type in the database, then in the front end, it has to be created as a decimal. That is also I'm creating it as a required. But Srikanth, do I need to give like any other apart from the required? Yes. There are a lot of data annotation classes are available, which can be used to perform the server side validation. Let's say string length is one of that. And the maximum length of characters for the name is going to be 10 I'm using. And the minimum length is going to be, I'll say 4 characters. Like that I can give anything. That's up to you. And salary range also, if you wanted to give anything, you can go ahead. And followed by, let me have another property. Okay, let me have another property. The next property is going to be the job, that what I'm using. And the next one is going to be, let's have another property, public string department name, that what I'm using. And let me set the properties here. The first one is the required, that what I'm using. And here also, let's say required. That's it. So this is how the table is going to be. What is my table name? Employee, that what I am having. And in similar way, a primary key, that what I have created with the name employee number, and followed by I'm applying some kind of validations for each and everything. So that's up to you. Like what are all the validations you wanted to apply? You can go ahead. I'm adding like only the required validation. That's up to you, the remaining validations. That's it. So this is all about my class. That is what we call it as a model class. This is what we call it as what? Model class. Okay, this is what we call it as model class. I can say model class. Step number 2 is going to be what? Step number 2 is what? Create a model class. Model class. And these classes, some people may call it as entity classes, and some people may call it as POCO classes as well. POCO in the sense plain object CLR object classes. Plain object CLR object classes. Any name you can call, that's up to you. And the next thing is going to be step number 3. What is step number 3? Step number 3, add the reference of entity framework core packages. Add the reference of what? Entity framework core packages. Add the reference of what? Entity framework core packages. From where? From the Nugget package manager, that what I can say. From the Nugget package manager, you people have to install add the reference of that. So how can I add it over there? Simply, let me go here. What are all the packages are required? I just wanted to give you, don't worry about it. Let's go to here and Solution Explorer, right click on the project and then manage the Nugget packages over here. And in that we have browse menu is available, and then you can search for the packages. The first one is going to be Microsoft dot entity framework core dot SQL server is required. Entity framework core you can add. The latest version is 5.0.0, but the project that what we have created here is what? 3.1.8. So that you can go with 3.1.8 version only. Srikanth, if I am installing like 5.0, like are we getting any kind of issues? Might be. I'm not giving you the guarantee that like we are not getting anything. Might be some version compatibility issues you will get, but you will come to know how do we fix it later. I'll just install that particular one. That is the first package. The first package is going to be Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core. Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core is the first package. Second one is going to be Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core dot SQL Server. Okay, Microsoft dot Entity Framework dot SQL Server. SQL Server 3.1.8 version I am using. That is the second one. That is the second one. Click on OK and accept the terms and conditions. Then it might take like a couple of minutes to install. And the third package is going to be Entity Framework Core dot SQL Server dot. There we have tools are available. There we have tools are available. You can see this. Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core dot tools are available. Let's say somewhere you can find the tools also. Right, this one. You have to add like these three packages. I'll just go with that package and then install. Click on OK. Accept the terms and condition. Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core dot tools, that what you have to get. So that like you need not to worry about the remaining things. All the dependencies you will get once if you install these three packages. Once if you install these three packages, you will get all the dependencies. Only the configuration is different. As I already told you, around like 50% of the coding, I mean not even 50, like the entire coding is similar to MVC 5 only. The only one difference you can find here is adding the packages and configuring it. Now I'm adding like everything and then just go and build the solution once again so that we are able to get it over there. Now you can see. Now you see here, right? Build is succeeded. And after that, this is my context class. I just wanted to maintain a relation with this particular class on the database. So how can I do that one? So to do that, I'm inheriting this particular class by using a class that is what we call it as DB context. And this DB context class is available under the namespace that is Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core is the reference. That's it. Entity Framework Core, that what we are having. And after that, I'm using a constructor. I'm using what? A constructor here. A constructor that what I'm using. And by using this constructor, we'll be communicating with the database. So how can I do that one? Simply database. Okay, DB context options are available. DB context options are available. And those context options, I wanted to give it to where? This company DB data context, company DB data context, and there I'll try to get the options that what we're having. And these options, I wanted to pass it to where? The base class constructor. So that is what the reason I'm using what? The base class constructor, and I'll pass all these options. Srikanth, like where I need to define the connection string. Earlier, if it is an ASP.NET or ASP.NET MVC, we have a web.config file. There I can define the connection string. But right now, we don't have the configuration file. Then where I need to define the connection string. To define the connection string, one second guys. Sorry. So to define the connection string, generally we are using app settings, but anyhow, let it be. First of all, what I am trying to do, this is my database context, right? Now in this context, I have a table that is an employee now. So each table is represented as a DB set. So that public DB set that what I am using, what is my table name? Employee. And there I just wanted to go with employees as the name. Employees as the name that what I'm having. That means we are representing explicitly this context class will contain the definition of what? This table. Okay, this context class will contain the definition of this particular table. Now I need to have a connection string. I need to have what? Connection string, where I need to specify my connection string. And before that, I need to execute this particular one, right? When this object is required, whenever my application is loaded, then I need that object. As I already told you, ASP.NET Core application is having great dependency injection. Get design pattern, that is the dependency injection is available. So as because of that, you need not to create the object again and again. One time if you can configure, then that should be fine. And before that, let me create the connection string. So how can I'll go to the app settings. You see, I'll go to the app settings file, and in the app settings file, let me define what? Connection strings. Let's say connection strings that what I am using. Strings, it must be the plural name. Okay, don't go with the singular. You may have multiple connection strings for your application. So that is where you can give it over there. And the name of the connection string can be anything. You can just give the name of the connection string. I'll say the application connection that what I am using, and there you have to specify the connection string. Let's go with server is equal to, I'll give dot that what I am using, server is equal to dot, and then user space ID is equal to SA that what I am using, and then password is equal to 123, and then database is equal to, let's say, company DB that what I am using. So this order, that's up to you. And this is my SQL Server database connection string. And if you are using any other rather than this, you can go with that. That's up to you. Once if it is done, always try to remember, build the project again and again. That is very important. That is very important. Now build one is succeeded. Now I wanted to use that connection string, configure that connection string in the startup file. So how can I do that? Go to the startup.cs file. There I'm adding a service for the entity framework. So how can I add, okay, context that what I'm using? Add DB context of what is your context class? The context class name is going to be company DB context that what we're having. And this class is available under the reference of that. I'm adding the reference, you see, context that what I'm using, and we'll be providing the options. We'll be providing what? Options that what I'm using. Okay, options that what I'm trying to give. So let's say options goes to options dot will go with user SQL server. And this method, if you are not able to get, means you have to add that. One second. Right. Options and options dot use SQL server that what we are having. One second. Yeah. This is what the problem. Don't worry. I'm using. Now you can see SQL server. Where it is available? It is available under Microsoft Entity Framework Core. All these references are very important. SQL server, and in that I'm trying to specify configuration dot get the connection string, and whatever the name we are having for the connection string, what name we have given at the time of creating, you can just give it over there. So what is the name we have given? App connection. So that is where you can just give it over there. That's it. This is what the configuration that what you have to do. That's it. Okay, this is what the configuration that what you need to do. What I am doing, services dot, I'm adding the context object into the dependency injection, so that you need not to create an object by using the new keyword. And what I am adding? Company DB data context, and I'm providing an options by using the SQL server. And from there, I'm getting the connection string from the configuration file, that is app settings.json, by using the name that is going to be appcon, that what I'm using. That's it. It's done. And the next one is, this is what the setup, initial setup, that what you have to do. So that is what I have to write one more time. So step number 3 is done. And step number 4 is going to be what? Step number 4 is going to be define the, define the connection string in app settings dot JSON file. Define the connection string in app settings dot JSON file. And step number 5 is going to be, what is step number 5? Configure the context class using dependency injection of startup.cs file. You will come to know what exactly the dependency injection very soon. So you can configure the context class by using the dependency injection of the startup file. And step number 6 is going to be, what is step number 6? The step number 6 is going to be prepare the context class. Okay, prepare the context class. Generally, the context class preparation has to be done from here only. You can go it as a 4th step. I think it's better. 4th step you can do that. And 5th one is that. And the 6th one is going to be like this. There are 6 steps that what I have done. And then step number 7 is going to be build the solution. Build the solution. That's very, very, very important. If you are not building the solution, you may not get any kind of output proper way. So that let's go and rebuild the solution once again. It is building the entire project to you. And then we are getting our rebuild succeeded. Okay, fine. It is working fine. And the next one is going to be step number 8 is going to be, what is step number 8 here? The step number 8 is going to be, let's say, create the controller. And step number 9 is going to be create the view pages. That's it. Create the view pages. Now what I want to do is, as because of the time limitation, to create the view pages, I'm using a scaffolding approach. But if you guys are familiar with that, you can go with that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can go with that. So let's say steps to perform CRUD operations. CRUD operation, I can say. CRUD operation using EF core in ASP.NET core MVC, I can say. That's it. EF core and ASP.NET MVC core, that what I am using. That's it. So this is what I have done. And even I can share that to you, don't worry. So this is how it is going to be. Now what I am trying to do, let me add a controller. So how can I add a controller? Let's go to the Solution Explorer. There we have the controller is available, you see. And I'm right click and click on add. Let's add a controller now. Let's add a controller. I'm selecting an MVC controller, empty, and then select the controller class. I'm sorry guys, let's remove it. Not home controller one. Give a proper naming convention, or else like give a proper naming convention. Let me rename it to, okay, let's rename it to, I'll say employee controller. Let's say EMP controller, that what I'm using. That's it. I'm creating EMP controller. The name of the controller is going to be EMP controller, that what I'm creating. That's it. EMP controller, that what I'm having. Let's go there and EMP controller. And the EMP controller here, you can see there we have what? There is a method is available index, and by using index, we wanted to get everything. So that what I can do, simply right click on this, add a view page. I'm selecting razor view, click on OK. There it is ask you to go with the model. So these are all the scaffolding templates. As the time concern, I'm using the scaffolding templates to generate the view pages. I'll select the list template here. and the model class is going to be an employee that what I'm selecting, and the context class is going to be like that. And I'm using like the script library reference and then layout that what I'm having the default I'm using, and then click on OK. Then it might take like a couple of minutes to design everything. Just wait a while. It gets loaded. It gets loaded. Just wait a while. Right. You see, everything is generated here. And after that, if you want to do the customization, you can. Let me go for the customization as well. I'll just copy this. Okay, copy this and paste it here. I'm sorry. I'll copy this. And then employee number also I want to display so that I can give an employee number here. And followed by here also, let's copy these 2 lines of the code. That means it doesn't matter that like we should follow the same thing. You can customize as well. They provide you for all the CRUD operations some default templates, and if you wanted to use them you can, or else if you want to modify you can. I don't need this details link, so that let me remove it. Automatically will be removed, and everything is going to be like this. This is how it is going to be. Yes, context classes are used to interact with the database. Now I'm having like this. This is how it is. Now this time you see, when I run my application, we'll get an error. Why? Because, and one more thing here, you see, when I run my application for the first time, you see what happened. So this is how it is. But if you want to go to that, we'll give what? emp/index has to be given. Anyhow, like we'll get an exception. Don't worry about that. That I'll take care. So that means in order to go to that particular location or particular file, then we have to give explicitly. But instead of doing that, what you can do, go to the startup.cs. There we have the endpoint configuration is there or not. In the endpoint configuration, the controller name, I'm giving emp as my controller name, and the action is going to be index only. So that now this time you need not to worry about it. You can see when I'm executing my application, then automatically it will send the request to the emp/index. So that is where directly you will get the exception now. You can see this. No need to give from the browser. We'll get an exception. We have to set those configurations. That's very important. After that onwards, everything is similar to what? MVC 5 only. There is no much differences. Even I can show you. Now what I'm trying to do, I'll create a context class object here. So how do I create? By using dependency injection pattern. Let's say private read only that what I am using. So context class object is going to be company DB data context that what I can say. Company DB data context that what I can say. I'm using _DB. And I'm taking a constructor here, and through that constructor, I'm passing what? Company DB data context that what we are having now. Sorry. I'll just pass this. I'm using the constructor injection. No need to use like the keyword. I mean, no need to use like the new keyword. This dot _DB is equal to, okay, _DB is equal to, directly you can give what? DB. That's it. And here like you need not to give that. That's it. Now we don't have any issues. That's it. That means that is like old approach by using new keyword, creating an object. Why? Because we have an inbuilt dependency injection mechanism is available. By using that, you can configure it one place and you can access it any number of times. That is how it is going to be. And you will come to know like how do we do that one very soon. So this is what I have done. I'm trying to get like all the data. So how can I get the data? Simply, let's say list of, okay, from now onwards, the entire source code, whatever I'm writing here, the same code can be run in MVC5 also. List of employee EMPS is equal to, I'm using what? Underscore DB dot. We have a table that is employees dot. To list is available, and generally to list is a function where we can have it for system.linQ namespace and followed by what? EMPS, that what I'm having. That's it. That's it. You need not to worry. The remaining things will be taken care. Now you can see when I'm executing that, and before that, let's right click and build the solution. There you can see here, build one succeeded, and then click with IAS Express. There you can see everything will be created and we are able to get the data even. We are able to get the data even. You can see this. This time we don't have any issues to get the data. Right, you can see I'm able to get the complete data. Entity framework core CRUD operation, and where we are having what? Index page, and followed by you can insert the data and you can edit the data, and at the same time you can delete the data as well. Let me quickly design the pages, and no need to write like the code for what? This particular one, view pages. Quickly let me write the code for the remaining. So how can I first, let's go for the code for creating. This is for what? Getting all records. Let's say getting all records. Getting all records. In similar way, I want to insert a record. So how can I insert a record? How can I insert a record? Tell me. Simply, let's go with public I action result, that what I am using. Let's say create, that what I can give, and a return view, that what I am using. Basically, as the MVC pattern, we have two types of request. One is get, another one is post. Let's right click, add a view page. I'm selecting the razor view, and then I'm selecting the create view, and then I'll select my model class as an employee, click on OK. Then automatically it would be created. You see? And once if it is generated, you can modify. That's your wish. It doesn't matter, like we can go with the same, whatever it generated. This feature, what we call it as scaffolding. You see, scaffolding. That means automatic code generation, the feature of automatic code generation. Now I'm having create. Now you can see here what we are having, farm group. From employee name only we are having now. I just wanted to copy this. Let me paste it here. Okay, let's paste it here once again. And this is for what? Employee name now. Let's say employee number, label, and at the same time here also employee number, and here also employee number. All these are what we call it as tag helpers. In ASP.NET MVC5, we are having what? HTML helper. In ASP.NET Core, we are having tag helpers. These are what we call it as tag helpers. So I'm adding everything. Okay, fine. This is how it is going to be fine. Now, once if user inserted the data and I wanted to get this data to here, and as we are applying the validation, okay, we are applying the, now this is the post action. So that public I action result, that what I'm having, create only, that what I can say, and we are going to send the entire employee record. So that is, let's say employee EMP, that what I am using, and then we'll insert the data db dot, we have an employees dot, there is a method add method, I'm passing an employee record, and then let's say db dot, we have save changes is available, and then I'm trying to return redirected to the action, that what I can say, what action here it is, index action, that what I'm using. That's it. So this is where I can insert the data and I can update the data and I can delete the data even. So let's see. Let's save this application and execute it. And even you can have a breakpoints here. I'm having a breakpoint and then execute. So like that, you can verify whether it is inserted or not. let's say create new. There you can just click on continue. We'll get the form here and go back to the list. Right now here we are. I'm inserting 101 where we don't have. Click on continue. 101, that what I am using. And the name is going to be, let's say, Naresh. And salary, I'm giving some salary. And the job is going to be admin, that what I can, or else like CEO, that what I am using. And the department name is going to be IT. And then click on create. There you can see we are able to get the entire data, and then click on continue. The data is getting added and will be displayed to you as well. You can see 101 Naresh and some salary and CEO, and the department name is going to be IT, that what I'm having here. Now that's up to you. If you wanted to edit a record, you can. Let's say I just wanted to click on edit, then we'll provide the edit functionality. When user click on delete, I want to provide the delete functionality. So let me quickly add those two functionalities and then run once again. Let's see, I just wanted to write like edit functionality. So edit record. Whenever if you want to edit the record, first of all, which record is edited? Creating means adding a new record. Editing means modifying the existing one. So that is what the reason. Let's say public I action result, and then edit is available. What record you guys wants to edit, that you have to find it out first of all. So how can I? db dot, let's say underscore db dot employees dot, we have a method is available, find method. I'm going to find that record, and this record is of what type? You can see employee type. So that is what the reason. Let me say employee emp is equal to, I just wanted to get it over there, and then we'll pass that to the view page. So how can I return? I'm using view, and there I can pass emp. That's it, and save this. That's it. Now what I can do, right click, add a view page. I'm selecting the razor view, and then click on OK, where I can select the edit, and the model class is an employee, and click on OK, so that we'll get the edit. Now it is getting loaded. Right. So this is how it is going to be. I'm having that. And editing, like generally this is not required. Employee number will never edit. So that is where you need not to worry. Everything is fine. And once if user modify, then we are getting like a post action. So that is where HTTP post, that what I can give. And then will be writing the same one. But here this time from the form, we are getting the entire employee record, so that I can say employee EMP, that what I am using. Now, how can I update it? There is a method is available in the entity framework, an entry method. So that db dot entry, that what I am using. Now I just wanted to pass that employee object dot, we have a method state is available, is equal to entity state dot modified, that what I am using. Modified, that what I am using, underscore db dot, we have save changes. That's it. Save changes is available. That's it. And after that, we'll just add this line of code, so that you need not to worry and go to the database and verify whether it is getting updated or not. You need not to worry. Everything is getting added over there. That's it. This is how it is. Edit record. And the last one is going to be delete record. So that let me finish the delete as well. So how can I? First of all, which record you wanted to delete, that you have to find it out by using delete action. Okay, delete action, right click, add a view page, and I'm selecting the razor view, and I'm selecting here the template as going to be delete, and the model is going to be employee, and then click on OK. And then will be delete a record. Generally here we are not getting any form data. We are getting only the ID which user has getting. You can see there. It is generating the code. Right. Are you sure you wanted to delete this? Now here I am not having any form. I'm not having any form. Once if user click on this delete, then what happened? We are sending what? An employee number only, right? We are sending what? An employee number only after clicking on this button. So that is what the reason. We'll be creating a post action, and in the post action we are going to retrieve the data. We'll be creating what? HTTP post, I can say, and we'll be retrieving the data in the form of string. Srikanth, why you are using string? Because you know there is a concept of polymorphism. Same method with same number of parameter and same type of parameter will not be allowed in the class. So that is why there should be the difference in the number of parameter or difference in the type of parameter or difference in order of parameter as because of that. But Srikanth, ID is, if it is string, ID is an employee number. So that what I can do, I'll create a int employee number is equal to, we'll convert that, that's it. We'll do the conversion so that I can say convert dot 2 into 32. I'm converting that ID, and that I employee number will pass it here, and that one will be removed. So how can I remove it? Underscore db dot employees, that what we're having. We have a method is available remove method, and I'm trying to pass the employee object. Save this application. That's it. And once if it is done, we'll call this. That's it. This is how we'll perform the CRUD operation. Out of that, the only one difference you found here, the configuration point of view. Configuration point of view, there is a difference. And apart from that one, we don't have any differences here. You can see now this time when I'm executing my application, will perform anything. Anyhow, we have seen how do we retrieve the data and how to insert the data. Let me show you how do we implement the edit and delete functionalities. Right. Let's click on edit. You can see we have that information, and in place of admin, let's say, okay, let's say I'm using technical admin, tech admin, that what I am using, and I click on save. There you can see the job is technical admin, and at the same time I just wanted to delete like 1111. Click on delete. There you can see, 1 second, delete 1111. Okay, there is a problem again. Let's come back to the delete functionality. We are removing that, but we haven't saved the changes now. See this. We are removing that, but we haven't saved, update the changes. So that you can see db dot, we have what method? Save changes. That's it. And save it. Now you can see this time delete is also getting executed in a proper way. Now you see, when I click on delete, now you can see this time we don't have that record. So this is how we'll be working with what? CRUD operations by using Entity Framework Core and ASP.NET Core MVC 3.1 application. Hope you enjoyed the session. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. Anybody have any questions to ask? Anyone have any questions? You can. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Very good. So, yep. I action result is a type generally, I can say I action result is a return type which contains definition for view methods generally. Okay. In future might be, yep, yeah, okay. Might be the next workshop would be with link you, and we'll let you know like when it will be started. Yes, and you can get this from the YouTube as well. This is a recorded session. For any further information, you can contact Naresh IT team. So thanks for attending, and bye. You can find the Naresh IT contact number and you can contact with them. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.